Welcome to the second official episode of the Winged Eagle podcast. What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you. We are here. Podcast is off and rolling. Had a very successful and fun first episode last Friday, and I'm up here to do it again this Friday. And right off the bat, just as a quick reminder, as we go into the fall and WWE SmackDown moves to the Fox network on Friday nights, this podcast will probably move to Saturday afternoons instead of what I've been doing lately here on Friday. Just want to say that up front. Now, I want to say hello to everybody. We have got a ton of stuff to discuss today, and I've got about an hour and a half here to get everything out, and I don't even know where to begin. Tons of news, including some late-breaking news just now, straight from the mouth or the fingers of Jon Moxley. He literally just tweeted out less than an hour ago that he has been pulled from All Out due to injury. And we knew he was injured. We knew there was some sort of an elbow or arm issue going on with him. He's been working some tags, working pretty protected lately. And this is the absolute worst news possible. So we'll get into all of that, along with a whole lot of other stuff. News, Raw and SmackDown recaps. We're going to preview Clash of Champions, talk a lot about the current storylines. And as you'll read here on the bottom of the ticker, a lot of news to get into and just a lot of random things too. And it was a very, very weird and strange Twitter week. And we're going to discuss a lot of those arguments and debates that's been going on for the last couple of weeks on Twitter. A lot of it is centered around Jim Cornette. But first of all, I want to say hello to everybody, get my notes pulled up here. I did, luckily, for those of you who joined in me on my stream last Monday night, I was up here live reacting to Raw. I'm currently undergoing a lot of equipment upgrades right now, so I have new computers, new monitors, everything like that, and it's shining a ton of light on my face. So I enabled YouTube in dark mode, so hopefully that will make my face not look too crazy and too bright. And like I said, the lighting and the audio and the video here is going to be a little bit of a work in progress because I still am going through some of these equipment upgrades. But the podcast will get better as we go. I'm certain of that. Since this is a podcast and I have had a lot of new subscribers come into the channel in the last couple of weeks, I feel like our numbers are back to what they used to be in terms of daily subscribers, weekly subscribers, monthly subscribers. A lot of new audience members are here. So for those of you that are watching, maybe for the first time or the first couple of times, make sure you like this video, smash that like button hard and hook me up and help get this podcast some traction. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at GoodMicWork. That is where I am the most vocal outside of YouTube. If you want to hear a quick opinion about anything, or you want to hear about upcoming videos or schedule videos for the channel, you can catch all of that over there on Twitter, so make sure you subscribe. You can also download the audio of this podcast over on my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. You can download it there, or you can catch me on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher Radio. And sometimes with these podcasts, it is going to take a couple of hours for that audio to be released. This is one of those times. As soon as I'm done with this podcast, I got to head out the door for a few hours, and I will not be able to put this audio up on the website till later tonight. So check back 4 to 6 hours from now, and the audio will be available for download and everywhere else. But in most cases, I hope to get the audio up right away, but there will be occasions where it takes a few hours, and I'm sorry about that. Other than that, give the Facebook page a like, make sure you subscribe, and stay tuned for all your video content, wrestling content needs right here at GoodMicWork Commentaries. Like I said, with most of these podcasts, I went through the entire podcast update last week, so I'm not going to rehash any of that. But with these podcast episodes, I am going to be paying a little bit less attention to the chat. Just want to let you know that up front. I will be reading the chat, and I might respond to some things here and there. And if you have a super chat coming in, I definitely will answer that. Even if I have to go back up and catch up on them later, they will be answered in every podcast. So just keep that in mind. If you're asking me something and I'm not answering, it's because I'm trying to stay focused on my notes, and I want the playback to be okay. I want this to be listenable for people that want to download the audio or whatever and just don't listen to me talking with the chat the whole time and rambling and running my mouth. There will be a lot of running my mouth in this episode because there's just a lot of news and a lot of stuff to discuss. So just to kind of give you a quick run through what we're going to discuss, we're going to open up here. I'm going to talk about Jon Moxley right off the bat. WWE NXT is moving to the USA Network this fall, which we knew they were going to be moving to Wednesdays, but we thought it was going to be FS1. Turns out it's USA Network. They are now going to be going head-to-head with All Elite Wrestling on TNT. That's very cool. Like I said, Jon Moxley has been injured, pulled from All Out. Becky Lynch, I almost called her Becky Rollins. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins got engaged in the last couple of days, so that's big news there. Ronda Rousey nearly severed off her finger filming a movie. The Undertaker's return date has been set for Madison Square Garden. There's some rumors on the location of WrestleMania 37, and it might be right in my backyard. Edge might be making a comeback. The XFL has revealed 8 team names, and the WWE is going to be venturing into the podcast world. Aside from that, Raw recaps, SmackDown recaps. It's funny, too, as I'm looking at my notes here, I have more notes, like 3 times more notes written down for SmackDown than I do Raw, which is weird. Raw is a 3-hour show, but I feel like so much went down on SmackDown. Even though overall I don't think SmackDown was a great show, I felt like a lot went down. So I got a ton of stuff to talk about there, a lot of current storyline stuff and directions, and we only have 2, actually technically 1 match announced for Clash of Champions, but we have a whole bunch of rumored matches. So we're going to get into what the proposed and likely card for the Clash will be. Aside from that, it's probably just going to be any other tidbits of wrestling news I might miss, super chats, possibly some questions at the end, and that's what you can look forward to in this episode. Let me just peek at us, make sure we're looking all right. Okay, we're up over here. Hopefully the lighting is not too bright in my face. It doesn't appear to be, and I am going to be working on that as we go. The likes are ass. We all hook me up with a few more than 36 likes there and get this thing up to a couple of hundred. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, aside from that, we need to kind of dive into the news, because one thing I want to make sure of as I go into this new podcast mode is I don't want you guys to be bored with me fucking twiddling my thumbs. So I want to get into as much news and jump right into stuff as quickly as possible here. So let's start off with Jon Moxley. This is horrible. Moxley literally just tweeted out, I was eating a cheesesteak from Witch. Shout out to Witch. I'm sitting right here eating it, looking at my phone, looking at Twitter, and that tweet shows up. I think I was like one of the first people to see it. And Moxley had announced that he is going to be pulled from All Out because of this elbow injury. Now, it was rumored, Meltzer had reported that he had some sort of an arm or elbow injury. We didn't know what that was. Excuse me while I pull up Jon Moxley's tweet here. But he tweets out, I'm absolutely gutted to have to deliver this news, but I'd rather it come directly from me. In a nightmare scenario, a serious case of MRSA, which is gnarly and very scary, has returned in my elbow. The timing couldn't be worse. In this circumstance, I am forced to pull out of the fight August 31st. Versus Omega at All Out. That is heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking, because that was, aside from the title match, that was your feature match. That was your big match that they set up at Double or Nothing, with Moxley showing up, closing out the show, beating up Omega. Omega got a little bit of revenge at the next one, and this was a match we were all ready for. You know, WWE's big defector, the big free agent, Kenny Omega. You know, these two of the biggest stars outside of the WWE umbrella, head-to-head, you know, at All Elite Wrestling's pay-per-view that's going to lead them right into their TV deal. Not a good start. Again, it's not backbreaking. It's not, you know, I would like to think that All Elite Wrestling would never have to rely on just one talent. So Moxley being out, while it's unfortunate, if you're an AEW fan, you would think that there should be plenty of other talent there to kind of fill in the void. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this is a lot bigger than the Neville and Page match being scrapped. This feels bigger. Because a lot of this All Out was centered around that. So now it's up to these guys to see how they deal with stuff like this, because this will not be the first time this happens to them. We've seen it for years, and every other wrestling promotion happens to WWE all the time. Guys getting sick, guys getting injured, having to pull out of scheduled matches many times at pay-per-views. Even in recent years, like a couple of years ago, we've had major matches change last minute due to the mumps that went through the locker room and all sorts of stuff. Roman Reigns' leukemia. You name it. Lots of things happen, and just regular old injuries, blowing out a knee, breaking an arm, getting a concussion, breaking a nose, like Becky Lynch when she lost her match with Ronda Rousey at the Survivor Series last year. So this is something that happens constantly. WWE, their talent is so ridiculously rich that they can pretty much plug in anybody they want, you know, and just do it. You know, when, who got sick? I forgot what the hell they did. Was it Bray Wyatt or something got sick, and they just plugged in AJ Styles for funsies. Go out there and have the match of your life with this guy. So WWE is more equipped, I think, to deal with these type of things, where All Elite Wrestling, this is a test for them, because this is a big show, marquee match. How are they going to respond to this? And how are they going to fill this void, fill in the blank there? Because you got a sold-out show here. You got a lot of people that were looking forward to this match. You have to deliver something in its place. So we'll see what they do. At least now, I almost wish they had a little bit more time to come up with something, because they could, you know, if they could find some insane Moxley replacement. You know, this news is so fresh, I haven't had time to even think about who could potentially replace him. Omega should have a match. You know, if AEW can pull some strings and maybe grab someone, you know, on a one-night deal or something like that to come in to face Omega, some big name. I don't know. it'll be interesting to see how they react to this and how they deal with a very untimely injury. And this is, again, something that's going to happen to them for their TNT show and pay-per-views, and it's just a part of the business. And it's how you respond to these things and how you keep your fans happy will say a lot about their promotion and their leadership capabilities. We'll see how they do. So good luck to All Elite Wrestling. I am still going to purchase All Out. The jury is out, by the way, on whether or not I'm going to be home that night on the 31st. I have mentioned it to my job. It's Labor Day weekend. It's very difficult, but I think I might be able to pull it off. If for any reason I can't pull it off, I'm going to have to watch the pay-per-view late, and I'll probably come up and do a separate review on it on Sunday, on September 1st. But if I can be home, I will order it, and I will probably live stream my reaction to that. So, like always, make sure you follow me on Twitter, because that's where I will be making these announcements in terms of a watch-along on the 31st. So I should know that in a couple of days. I'll probably know that by this Monday when I'm up here streaming for Monday Night Raw. We are still up and running, right? Cool. Thank you for getting those likes climbing up on me. And we have about an audience of 100. I mean, this is a Friday afternoon. When this podcast moves to Saturdays, I think the audience will be better. And last week we still had a pretty decent one, and this week will probably be okay. But this video will remain up all weekend long, and it's going to be interesting. I've noticed a lot of podcasters and YouTubers, we're all going through the same thing. We're all trying to figure out, oh shit, what do we do when SmackDown moves to Fridays? You know, I don't think the weekend is a really good time for a podcast, because it's so late in the week that, you know, you're going to turn around 24 or 48 hours later and you got Monday Night Raw and everything starts over again. So, you know, weekends aren't my ideal time. You know, I wish SmackDown would actually stay on Tuesdays so I can come up on Thursdays or Fridays or something. But it's interesting. It'll be an interesting fall, that's for sure. And AEW is going to have some head-to-head competition on Wednesday nights with NXT officially moving to the USA Network. This was made official. They're starting on September 18th, getting a 2-week jump on AEW. And it's going to be a 2-hour show running head-to-head with whatever their show is even called. I don't even know what All Elite Wrestling show is called on Wednesday nights on TNT. Don't even know if they've released a name there yet or not. I heard something about Wednesday Night Dynamite or some shit like that. I don't know. But what we have on our hands now is a Wednesday Night War, a wrestling head-to-head war that actually seems like it might be fun. I felt when TNA went head-to-head with Raw back in 2010, it was one of the dumbest fucking decisions in the world, because there was just no way they were going to be able to compete. All Elite Wrestling chose their night first. WWE followed suit and ran Wednesday nights head-to-head with them. This is going to be fun, because NXT is a more realistic form of competition, I feel like, for All Elite Wrestling anyway. Because they kind of... How can I word this without sounding like a dick? They basically have the same type of fan base. That kind of smarky, hipster, you know, pro wrestling, New Japan, I don't know, fucking guys. You know who I'm talking about. Those type of fans. I think All Elite Wrestling is counting on those type of fans to be the majority of their audience. But those type of fans are also the ones that really, really like NXT. As a matter of fact, NXT is really the only part of WWE that those fans really seem to appreciate, because they can shit all over the main roster and the main product all the time. Crap on pay-per-views, crap on Raws, SmackDowns, how bad Roman Reigns sucks, this and that. But when NXT has a takeover show, everybody's singing their praises. So that's one area of wrestling where I think we all come together, no matter what our differences are. We all come together and appreciate NXT. It's fantastic wrestling. And I said right from the get-go, right when, you know, All Elite Wrestling was getting going and it was being known that they were seeking out a TV deal and everything like that, and I'm like, today, to me, their more realistic competition would be NXT. And here we are now. We have it on Wednesday nights, head-to-head, and All Elite Wrestling, I hate to say it, because I want nothing more than for them to succeed, because that's going to make wrestling better for us. It's going to make wrestling better for the fans. Both companies are going to be pushed to do better, and everybody wins in this scenario. However, All Elite Wrestling is in a huge uphill battle here. You know, WWE, I always felt back during the Monday Night Wars, was in an uphill battle with WCW, because Ted Turner owned his own networks. He could virtually do whatever he wanted. You know, if I just make Nitro 2 hours, now I'm going to make it 3 hours. Now I'm going to start 10 minutes early. Now I'm going to run 10 minutes late. It's like how WWE has the WWE Network now, where they can kind of just run anything they want with their pay-per-views. They can go long. They can do basically anything they want. And with these TV deals, they have a lot better relationship with the USA Network and probably will Fox than AEW has with TNT, because AEW is not a proven entity yet. They're still in an experimental phase. TNT doesn't really even know what they have. So the WWE can probably pull a lot of strings and and influence a lot with their TV networks over All Elite Wrestling. So if All Elite Wrestling is trying to pull out a big card on a Wednesday night and say, hey, we're going to have a title match and we're going to be this and that, this is going to be a pay-per-view quality Wednesday night on TNT. WWE can say, okay, let's call up AJ Styles and have him come down here and have a match with Matt Riddle. Just for fuck of it. Just for the hell of it. Let's bring back Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens, and let's bring in Shinsuke Nakamura, or just some random talent to put with another random talent in NXT, and you have the match of the fucking year that's just pulled right out of their ass. When you take down NXT, NXT UK, Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and you physically write down those wrestlers on a piece of paper with a pencil or a pen and look at those names, there's absolutely no comparison. You could wipe out half of those names, and I still think the roster would be stronger than AEW. That's not because I have anything against AEW, because this is a very bitter war right now with the fans trying to take sides. I don't know how hard I have to say this, and I don't really get attacked for this, but I've seen it on Twitter before, where I've seen people that I know personally want AEW to succeed. But if they make the mistake of saying one thing, probably a lot like what I'm saying now, they're going to get attacked by these fans that say they're stupid and shit. It has nothing to do with that. I'm just trying to be realistic here. And I think AEW, we've talked about this before on the podcast on my show for months, is that I think the fans need to maybe scale back their expectations a little bit of AEW. Because you have fans to this point that are thinking that WWE is already dead. Imagine thinking that. Did you guys see that ludicrous headline on Twitter? I mentioned something about it. A lot of the podcasters did. I'm not even going to mention the publication's name because it's not worth giving them the publicity. But they created this headline like Vince McMahon desperately moves NXT to the USA Network to save WWE and start a Wednesday night wrestling war out of desperation because they know they're going to die with AEW here. I'm like, that's the type of ignorance that's really dangerous. Because if you're crazy enough to think that, just like 10 years ago, you had fans swearing up and down that in 5 years, WWE would be out of business and TNA would be the kings of wrestling and you'd never hear from WWE ever again. They were going to close their doors and sell all their shit in a flea market. That's what the wrestling fans actually thought. You know it's true. I'm up here right now on YouTube because of shit like that. Because I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, I've kind of been out of the loop for the past couple of years in wrestling, but I didn't realize how dumb the audience has gotten. And that was what pretty much birthed this YouTube channel. And now it's like we're seeing the same thing. I'm like, okay, I want AEW to succeed as much as the next guy, but you have to be realistic. I don't think you understand business or anything. WWE's got a 60-year head start. They've got billions of dollars. They can just wipe their ass with money and put together a super card of wrestling any day they wish when you gather up all the talent that they have there. So basically, that's all I'm saying. AEW is in an uphill battle here. They also have a company in WWE that can do things, do little tricks. They can get the jump on them 2 weeks early on the Wednesday Night Wars. AEW still needs to establish itself. And now you've got an established program already getting a 2-week head start on them. It's like an extra week. It basically translates into a year head start when you look at it like that. So AEW, it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in the ratings, how NXT does in the ratings. WWE and, USA Network and TNT, it's going to be up to them to promote and advertise their shows properly. I think TNT I feel pretty good about. So far, I've liked all of their advertisements. The network seems to be behind All Elite Wrestling. I think that's good because when you had companies like TNA or ECW having contracts with Spike TV or TNN or whatever, you always heard these stories about the network never giving a shit, never promoting their wrestling show the way they should, where WWE is just splattered everywhere with their advertisements. So TNT has got to do a fair amount of promoting and plugging their new show and taking it seriously, and hopefully they will. And hopefully, I might have just criticized the AEW audience here, but the WWE audience needs to understand something too, is that AEW is not going to burst right on the scenes with these amazing ratings right off the bat. Maybe they'll get a good rating in the first couple of weeks from all the diehards that want to support. That's great. But if All Elite Wrestling does not perform and they don't have the ratings that the network was hoping or that the fans were hoping. I want the fans, number one, to be patient, and I want all the WWE crazies out there to refrain from saying, see, I told you so. I knew they weren't going to amount to anything. It's not going to happen every night. It's amazing to me that I have to tell both the WWE and the AEW audience this. It's not going to happen every night. So before you WWE fans start celebrating, if AEW gets a shitty rating, you have to understand that there's always another week, and they can always bounce back, and they can say, okay, our ratings are in the shit. What do we have to do to get better? And then they can take those steps to get better. That's what learning and competing and growing is all about. It's not all going to be over within one night. And on the other side of that coin, if they do have a great night, if they do pull out all the stops, and AEW just loads up a card and has a great TV show, and the fans are raving about it, maybe we see a title change or something like that, before you AEW fans start celebrating, understand that that's only 1 week, and the very next week the show can suck. We see that every week with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. The last couple of Monday Night Raws, guess what? Have not been bad. Really? Yeah, for real. Last couple of Raws have not been bad. But you go back 3 or 4 Raws from there, and they were shit. So it has its ups and it has its downs, and I don't think anybody should be counting any chickens before they're hatching. You know, and you got to understand that we are still, 6 weeks away from All Elite Wrestling debuting on TNT, and you have fans trying to decide, you have fans arguing with each other about which company is going to survive. I think you're all idiots. And I think we should all just relax and sit back and enjoy some awesome wrestling. I think Wednesday nights are going to be fun. I think Wednesday nights are going to be interesting. And it's going to give me a whole nother dimension and list of stuff to talk about on my podcasts, because now we've got NXT a little bit more visible to the mainstream audience, and they're going to be up in their game. And now we have a brand new wrestling company on TNT. And I just recently saw that Tony Schiavone has reached a deal with All Elite Wrestling. I think he is going to keep his gig with MLW as well. But when I hear and I read that Tony Schiavone is going to All Elite Wrestling, and All Elite Wrestling is on TNT, are we about to get Tony Schiavone's voice back on TNT? You know, for the old school fan in me, that's just heartwarming. You know, I love that. I just like the sound of that. You know, I was never even a big Tony Schiavone fan, but, you know, WCW closed its doors 18 years ago. To me, that still feels like yesterday. You know, so Tony Schiavone coming back after all these years, if he does get an opportunity to call one of their Wednesday night shows, I don't know if he's going to be there with Jim Ross or what, but if he calls anything on TNT, I think that's going to be really fun and interesting and a nice little throwback. So kind of cool to see him there as well. So all I want for All Elite Wrestling and for WWE is for both shows to be good. I want NXT on Wednesdays to be awesome, because a lot of fans are concerned about NXT moving from the WWE network to the USA network and moving to 2 hours. I've been seeing a lot of, and I think these are like knee-jerk instincts that just the fans blurt out, because in most cases it makes sense, but I don't think it always makes sense. And that is the biggest complaint that I've seen so far about NXT going to the USA network, is that, oh, they're going to up it to 2 hours, they're going to water it down, make it stale and boring. I think NXT is good enough to survive 2 hours. I think their product is good enough to where if it was on the WWE network, I've sometimes said, and I don't watch a ton of NXT, but when I do, I've said, wow, that was a short show. It would be great if it was another hour. And when you put it on TV, you got to remember that you're going to have 20 to 30 minutes of that is going to be commercial. So you're probably only looking at about an hour and a half of wrestling, you know, compared to the hour that was on the WWE network. So it's not that much. It's not like it's tripling in size or anything like that. Now, if they give NXT 2 shows, that's one thing, you know, because with the wild card rule, the main roster is pretty much all together at one. So when you have 3 hours of Raw followed by 2 hours of SmackDown the next night, NXT could never survive that. They could not do a 2-hour show on Wednesday and then follow it up with a 3-hour show on Thursday. It would get watered down and stale real quick. But in terms of just taking a show that's been on the network 1 hour for so long, it's only natural that that's going to evolve and grow. It's not like rumors, it's not like them jumping to USA Network fell out of the fucking sky. They've been talking about this for a long time. We knew that NXT would probably find a television home sometime in the future. We've actually been talking about that for a couple of years. Now, WWE took it upon themselves to do the head-to-head thing, but, you know, really, they were already on Wednesday nights. They were already going to be going head-to-head with All Elite Wrestling. A lot of people are blaming WWE. Oh, they're pushing their show to the USA Network so they can go head-to-head. I'm like, they were already going head-to-head. It was just an hour show, wasn't it? Aren't both shows going to start at 8 p.m.? And on the network, maybe NXT was 7 p.m. I don't remember, but I thought NXT maybe ran on 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. So to me, it wasn't even that much of a stretch. They were already on that night. AEW made the decision to go to Wednesday nights. WWE just stayed on the same night and just moved to a TV deal. So that's what's called competition. It has nothing to do with desperation, and it sure as hell has nothing to do with fear. I had some saliva drooling knuckle dragger getting on my case on Twitter the other day about how WWE is desperate and they need to go head to head to save themselves and all this. And I'm like, I can't even argue with this. This is so jaw-dropping, gut-wrenchingly stupid that it's not even worth my time and attention. But that's the level of dumbness that's out there. And I think it's on both sides. And I'm not absolving WWE fans. I'm not saying you're right in this scenario. Y'all are just as damn crazy as they are, just from a completely different direction. And it's kind of been frustrating all week on Twitter. I'm like, can nobody be happy about this? Am I the only one that is thrilled for this? I am so excited about wrestling. I mean, it's not the Monday Night Wars, but it's the closest thing we've had to that in quite some time. So I don't see any downside to this at all. I think this is great that we get competition again, and this time it's on Wednesday nights, and it's with a different form of competition, NXT and All Elite Wrestling. Both brands, the fans, the pure wrestling fans, really do respect both brands. So that should make it extremely fun for them. It shouldn't make them mad. It shouldn't stress them out. As far as like, oh, is the company that I'm behind? Sorry, I'm trying to look at my screen there. Is the company that I'm behind? If I'm taking sides in this, they're going to be more stressed out and concerned with them being right, with them having bragging rights on Twitter, than actually enjoying the wrestling of both companies. If WWE has a great show and AEW does not, I'm not going to be like pissed at WWE for having a better show than them. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just think you should just enjoy it. Just hope that the men and women out there that are going out there and busting their ass for us, can we show them a little love and stop worrying about this behind the scenes corporate company bullshit? If you like wrestling, just watch these shows. And if you don't like what you see on SmackDown, then watch NXT, Raw, and AEW instead. There is just so much wrestling to go around. Not one wrestler should piss anybody off. Not one Roman Reigns victory or Charlotte victory should be enough to make your head explode. It's a gigantic wrestling world out there, much bigger than you and your fucking opinions about people. And I think there's plenty of wrestling to go around for all different shapes and sizes of wrestling fans, no matter what style of product you like. If you like the hard-hitting, strong style of New Japan, if you like the flippy shit of the Indies and 205 Live, if you like the wrestling that is trying to portray itself more as sport, like the NWA and the 10 Pounds of Gold is currently doing, All Elite Wrestling claims they want to be a lot like sport, but given some of the names on their roster, it's really hard to take them seriously there. And WWE gives you all the things that they give you. So there's literally like something for everybody's taste out there. I think if you're a 70-year-old wrestling fan that grew up watching wrestlings in the 50s and 60s, you still have wrestling that exists out there in this world that will closely resemble that. Where if you like something a little bit more modern, where Joey Ryan is flipping people upside down with his dick, you can have that too. So I just don't see I don't see the point in arguing with each other and yelling and screaming and being so upset when everything going on right now in wrestling, especially with what's going to be happening this fall, is very, very good news. Extremely good news. And we should all enjoy that. I want to say hi to a couple of you guys in the chat as well who've been chiming in. Thank you very much. Good to see you guys in here. Good to see OK Fabe in here, and Vontae and AJ and Luna, Nicola, all y'all. I have been seeing this here a little bit, but like I said on these podcasts, I'm trying to stay mostly focused on my notes here. And while we're on the subject of this All Elite Wrestling and WWE War, the USA Network, TNT, WWE fanboys versus AEW fanboys, and who the fuck is right and who the fuck is wrong, and if our brains aren't about to explode from that stupidity, let's just keep the stupidity going, shall we? And I talked a little bit about this last week, but Jim Cornette is making some more news here, making some more waves. He seems to be feuding with everybody in wrestling. Now, last week I talked about how he was getting on the case of Joey Ryan, and Jim Cornette really doesn't like modern wrestling in terms of like silly shit, flipping people over with the dicks, the Orange Cassidy gimmick, Marco Stunt, guys like that. Jim Cornette doesn't deem worthy enough to be in wrestling. There was also a really big, stupid Twitter debate whether or not wrestling is performance art or not. Jim Cornette is extremely old school, and I said this last week, I love Jim Cornette. And the only reason I'm not really vocal about this on Twitter is, number one, I don't care. And number two, I don't want to fucking tag Jim Cornette or have him see something that I tweet and then he comes after me with a fucking chainsaw, because it would just hurt my feelings that somebody that I love and respect as much as Jim Cornette, if he sees one even slight criticism, you don't even have to be a dick to Jim Cornette. You just have to disagree slightly. He's going to come after you and call you a talentless fucking piece of shit bum and all of this. And honestly, if somebody that I idolized did that to me, I'd like be bummed out. And then if I did run into him at a convention, I might pull a Santino Marella and slap his fucking face. Jim Cornette, I think, is awesome. Jim Cornette is only about 13 years older than me. He and I are not necessarily in the same generation, but we're close. So the overall like mindset of Jim Cornette, I've always loved and respected his views and his opinions on pro wrestling. If I was going to start a wrestling school or if I was going to open a wrestling company, I would want a lot of the same core fundamental ideas that Jim Cornette has. You know, all of his principles, all his ideas, what he feels like wrestling should be. I agree with that completely and wholeheartedly. The problem is Jim Cornette is so goddamn insane to where he's just taking, if you could just take his core beliefs and then separate out the psychotic rants and the rant and raving and the cursing and the yelling and the screaming, I don't know why this guy is so angry. If you take away the anger and you just leave what's there, it's actually a really good philosophy. You know, Jim Cornette is a very smart man. The problem is he, for some reason, has got such a problem with independent wrestling, and now he's feuding with a lot of independent wrestlers. Who the hell did he call a butterface over the weekend? He's very insulting, and Jim Cornette is usually not like that. He's a pretty liberal dude, but he's being accused here of being sexist and shit like that because he told somebody to get back in the kitchen. I mean, these are not comments that I would expect Jim Cornette to make, you know, just based on who he is. I mean, I know he's angry and mad, but I usually expect his anger to be directed more towards people like Vince Russo or anybody else that has done him wrong in the past. But he just seems to be randomly attacking motherfuckers on Twitter who are, you know, saying things back to him. But you can't say people are being disrespectful to Jim Cornette. That is not an argument I'm going to accept because nobody is more disrespectful than Jim Cornette. The shit that he says to people is mind-blowing. The shit that he says to perfectly nice people in the wrestling community that maybe they just say something or support something that he doesn't like. Jim Cornette, for as old as he is, for as long as he's been in the business, and to be as smart as he is, he has the attitude of like an 18-year-old internet troll, where he's just out attacking people. Like, I don't understand why Jim Cornette cares. He tries to pretend like wrestling is being ruined. Modern wrestling is ruining, you know, the sport that he loves. And when he was coming through wrestling, it was more serious. Bullshit. Come on, Jim. I can watch videotape. I go back to the 80s and even the 70s in the NWA and all your goofy-ass Smoky Mountain shit that you did. Wrestling is no more silly now than it was back then. Maybe it's more visible because it's all over the internet and every single independent wrestling company can be seen now with YouTube and social media and all of that. So a lot more is seen to the naked eye, I guess, and it's a little bit easier to access. But it might be a little sillier in parts, but overall, wrestling is still the same. Overall, wrestling is entertainment, which brings me to the other stupid debate. Is wrestling performance art or not? And there is one camp, there's the old school camp that says, no, it's wrestling. And then there's the modern camp that says, no, it's performance art. I hate to say this, but I'm in the modern camp. Joey Ryan, shout out to him, who just tweeted out earlier today. It's pretty funny for the people that say wrestling is not performance art. The biggest wrestling company in the world doesn't have a wrestling center. They have a performance center. And I'm kind of, I guess maybe I'm in between because I do believe that wrestling isn't a class by itself. There is nothing out there in the world that is close to this type of entertainment. You don't even know how to really describe this to people, you know, because fake fighting isn't even accurate, you know, so I think it's almost a blend of both. It's definitely has some sport aspects to it. Look at these athletes we see out there. All you got to do is just look at NXT. Look at somebody like Velveteen Dream or anybody on 205 Live or any number of people on the WWE roster. You know, it is an extremely athletic line of work. Extremely. But it's combined with performance and acting and theatrics and lighting and sound effects and music. You know, it really is a performance, and I almost think like it's a blend of both. And why fans have to feel like they have to draw such a specific line between the two. I'm like, wrestling is you can't even compare it to anything else. It really is something that none of us see or nobody else has seen in any form of entertainment. It's so different. So I think it should be classified by itself. It's a combination of sport and performance. We've always felt like this. Why in 2019 are we having this debate? This debate could have been had in the 1950s. I think the first time I heard performance art mentioned might have been in the Beyond the Mat documentary, where Blaustein had mentioned something about performance art, something like that. So before, this doesn't seem like something that would have angered Jim Cornette that much. But the fact that it's coming from a lot of people he hates right now, the independent wrestlers and everybody that he's attacking on social media, the fact that it's coming from them, he's doubling down now and really insisting that wrestling is the way he sees it. And he's being a jerk about it, a huge jerk. And it's a shame because Jim Cornette is he's a smart dude. I firmly believe, I've said it before on the commentaries, I've said it for years, anger is for amateurs. I think if you're one of those people that is screaming into a camera or typing in all caps on Twitter or going completely out of your mind about something that at the end of the day doesn't matter, I think you have a lot of immaturity emotionally and mentally, and need to fucking talk to someone because nothing should upset you this much. And for Jim Cornette to be waking up every day ready to attack someone else, to me, is just extremely unhealthy. I'm no psychiatrist, but it just seems to me that if it was me doing that, I'd be stressed out. I'd be wired all the time. I'd be fucking itching and antsy. You know what I mean? I like to relax, man. I'm the dude from Big Lebowski. I'm not fucking Jim Cornette. So to me, I feel like the opposite, and I don't understand that even if you have these opinions, which is fine, because you may have an opinion on one side of this, but as long as you're not a psycho about it, I'll be happy to listen to your opinion. Who does it say down here? I see a couple of messages here in the chat, or a couple of comments. Vash Starwind, a live action drama / play. So some people who have opinions on this, I believe it's closer to sport than performance art. And maybe some people are saying, I think it's closer to performance art than sport. As long as you give reasons, I don't care which side you're on, and I respect your opinion. But to be so angry and mad about this, I don't understand what's going on with Jim and why he is. Cornette's always been upset, and he's always been mad and angry and yelling and screaming and stuff, but it seems to be a little bit ridiculous right now. I meant to do this before I came up here, but I wanted to list a couple of his podcasts from the past couple of days and just to hear what he's saying, because all I've really read was the tweets. And there's just so many people that he seems to hate. And if I was Cornette, I'm like, why do you even engage? Why would you even? There's plenty of people that I fucking can't stand. They don't even enter my mind. I don't even give them a second thought. Wrestlers, wrestling personalities, YouTubers. If there's anybody I don't like, I just don't think about them or read their shit or watch their shit or care to even debate. I can read the stupidest tweet in the world from somebody that's in the community and I won't even respond to it because I'm like, why? Why do I want to even go down this fucking hole? So Jim Cornette, just to every single day put himself into this position where he's got to say something. I don't know. Maybe people like that. Maybe he thrives off of that. Maybe it breathes life into him. Maybe it keeps him relevant. I don't know. But Jim Cornette, I don't think needs to worry about being relevant. He's Jim fucking Cornette. He's a Hall of Fame wrestling manager. But because of his attitude, he may never be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He should not have to worry about trying to get attention brought to him, because if he was just a level-headed dude, he'd probably be having a podcast with Conrad Thompson right now. How fun would that be to have Conrad be able to moderate those thoughts ricocheting around inside of that guy's skull? Holy crap. WWE might want to bring him into the Performance Center, teach kids how to cut promos, or give him a network show on the WWE network or something. He's got that personality. He has a lot of knowledge there. He could be in creative in WWE. He'd probably make himself crazy, but he could be useful there. There's lots of places in wrestling that Jim Cornette's brain could be extremely valuable. The problem is his brain is crowded with too much hate. And if I had one wish in the world, well, maybe not one wish. My one wish would be zillions of dollars. But if I had two wishes, it might just be to put Jim Cornette at peace and have him use his knowledge of professional wrestling for good rather than evil. And right now I feel like he's using it for evil. It's creating a lot of division in the wrestling audience, and he's pitting people against each other, people that otherwise probably had no problem with each other. But when they read what Cornette says, and then they read what people against him say, then they have to decide, and then it just creates more division. So Jim Cornette, I expect more from you. You're a cool dude, and I fucking love you, but this is getting a little bit ridiculous. And every day I'm waking up to see more insanity, more stupidity, and more people wasting their time on Twitter. Probably more in the last couple of weeks than I have in an extremely long time. And it's disappointing. I think we all need to grow the fuck up. But anyway, enough about All Elite Wrestling, WWE, NXT, USA Network, Jim Cornette versus the world. I just wanted to get a few of those opinions out because it's been all over the place. And I know you guys have been tweeting me and tagging me in just random posts. Like some people will just tag me in something that Jim Cornette said because it's so damn funny. It's ridiculous and insane and psychotic, but at the same time, it's funny just to see how mad this guy is getting at somebody like Joey Ryan. He called him a brown buttered roll covered in pubic hair or something like that, which I laughed. I thought Jim Cornette was a dick for saying that. I like Joey Ryan, but the insult itself literally had me laughing out loud. So Jim Cornette, even when he's crazy, he's still funny. And Jim Cornette, if you're listening, which I know you're not, dude, calm down, man. We all love you. And if you hear this, please don't attack me and call me a bald penis-looking stick of deodorant or whatever the hell you're going to call me. Give it a rest. Hate gets you nowhere in life. It's absolutely stupid to be so cynical and mad and angry about literally everything. If you have a subject or two you're very passionate about, that's one thing. I have subjects that I'm passionate about. And let me talk about the word passionate too. I don't like that excuse. You know, a lot of people who've been defending Jim Cornette and his angry rants have been saying that, oh, he's just a passionate guy. Fuck off. There's difference between being passionate and being a douchebag. A big difference. You can be passionate. I'm passionate. There's plenty of people out there passionate, but being passionate doesn't give you a free pass to say stupid shit, to say mean, hateful, hurtful, crude, rude shit all the time. That doesn't mean you're passionate. That just means you're a dick. And there is a difference between it. If you want to have strong opinions, have strong opinions. But there is kind of a line there to where your strong opinions are going to cross over in just being ridiculous. To where even if there are some truths in your arguments, I've said this about wrestling fans plenty of times, even if there's truths in your arguments, the truth is being buried under all that hate. Nobody's going to take you seriously anyway. So it's really not a good way to get your point across, because the angrier you are, people are only going to hear the anger and not hear the words that you're actually trying to convey. So I just think Jim Cornette should be smarter than that. He's a hell of a lot smarter than me. Dude's made a living for 40 plus years in the wrestling business. One of the greatest wrestling minds and greatest historians this business has ever seen. But he's acting like an 18-year-old moron on Twitter, and he needs to knock it off. No, Najee, Buddy Murphy does not suck. You are insane. Anyway, let's move on to some other wrestling news, because there are tons of things to get into, and I'm already running out of time. I got to be wrapping this podcast up in the next 45 minutes. Congratulations to Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, who got engaged a couple of days ago. I believe they made this announcement on Instagram, possibly Twitter, but there was a picture of them on a beach, standing on a rocky beach, with Becky holding up the ring that I guess she gave to Seth when she got down on her knees and proposed to him. But Becky said that she's the happiest man alive, and I'm happy for the both of them. I think it's kind of quick, but I certainly am not going to judge anybody's relationship. If you think less than a year is too quick for somebody to be engaged, we don't even know who they are personally to even make that decision. So I'm not going to criticize them getting engaged this quick. If that's what they want to do, I'm happy for them, and I wish them all the best. Kind of funny that they are engaged, and I think the fans have been cracking some jokes about it, but at the end of the day, they seem to love each other, and how can you not wish them anything other than the best, which is what I do. And since we're on the subject of relationships, I did see this. I didn't even know these two were a couple, but apparently Kathy Kelly and Velveteen Dream have split up. I didn't even know they were dating. Last I heard, Kathy Kelly was dating Finn Balor, but I think that was like years ago. So just that pairing right there alone just kind of made me chuckle a little bit. And Kathy Kelly put up on Twitter that she is now single. So single men out there, DM her. I'm sure she will not be creeped out at all. We also have a return date set for The Undertaker. He's going to be returning to the September 10th edition of SmackDown Live from Madison Square Garden. I believe it's the first Garden SmackDown ever. Am I hearing that right? I can't believe SmackDown has never been to the Garden. But that will be on September 10th, and I believe September 9th and 10th are both, Raw and SmackDown are both from the Garden. I think that's where the King of the Ring semifinals take place, because that will be the go-home set of TV tapings for Clash of Champions. And, of course, we have the finals of the King of the Ring at the Clash. So that's kind of exciting. We'll see The Undertaker back on SmackDown on September 10th. And for those of you who are always speculating about The Undertaker's potential retirement, I did a video on that a couple of weeks ago, pitching an idea for The Undertaker to retire on November 22nd of next year, 2020. It will be the 30th anniversary to the day of his debut at the Survivor Series on November 22nd, 1990. November 22nd in 2020 is on a Sunday. So if WWE books Survivor Series on that day, that would be a perfect place for The Undertaker to hang up his boots. So if anybody asks me in the next year when I think The Undertaker should retire, November 22nd, 2020. If WWE does not capitalize on that, then they are dumb. I also want to talk about Ronda Rousey. Very unfortunate injury that she suffered. My God, did you see that gnarly-ass pic on Instagram? She nearly severed her finger. I believe she broke the middle finger and nearly cut it off. She was down in Mexico filming filming a TV show. I've never even heard of it. Fox's 911. Don't even know what that is. But she was down there filming that and had a scene where she had, I guess, slam a door. And the door slammed on her finger and broke it and nearly cut it off. And she was holding it up to the camera. And if you haven't seen that gruesome, uncensored picture, look it up and try not to barf. That's scary because there's tendons, there's ligaments in there. And I really hope she's all right. Apparently, she went back to work the next day. So this is, at the end, she is going to be all right. I was hoping to see a Ronda Rousey return at some point here in the near future. But if she has a half-severed finger, she's probably not going to be able to do too much physical in the ring for at least a few weeks, maybe even a few months. But speedy recovery and well wishes out to Ronda Rousey. That is horrible. I've had some finger injuries. I've had some nasty cuts on my finger, and I've broken a shit ton of toes. None of that stuff is ever fun. And I mean, she's had worse done to her in the octagon, but she's a tough woman, and we wish her well. And I really want to see her back on WWE TV soon because I miss Ronda Rousey. I'm one of the few people that do. I also want to mention real quick, I can't remember if I talked about this last week on the last episode or not, but we saw Edge return at the SummerSlam kickoff show, and he came in the ring, and who did he speared Elias, I believe, right? And it was really exciting to see Edge. He was back in Toronto, back in his hometown, got a great ovation from the audience. He looked good, and he took a bump, and he got physical. And it immediately had fans speculating that maybe we could see Edge returning to the ring. And then he discussed it on his podcast, saying that a lot of advances had been made in medicine, in regards to his neck. And when he retired in 2011, he was retiring based on what they told him at the time. And now there have been advancements made, and he can probably work a match. And he's basically teasing that he could come back and have a match. And he has been thinking about it. And all of the signs are kind of there. And if you remember, Stone Cold Steve Austin, while it's not the exact same neck injury, I don't believe, it's very similar. With that fusion surgery, I think Lita had it as well. So Edge's neck is probably okay to take a few bumps, because if you remember back when Austin had to retire after WrestleMania 19, he still had that match with The Rock. And then when he became the commissioner, he was getting physical all the time. Austin pretty much did have wrestling matches after WrestleMania 19. They were just in the form of brawls on the outside of the ring. I remember a really bloody brawl he had with Brock Lesnar. Maybe there was blood. I think Brock stole his four-wheeler and the two of them were fighting. Austin was stunning people left and right. There was rumors of him coming back and having a match with Hulk Hogan a couple of times, with CM Punk even as recently as maybe 2013. So we knew that Austin could probably put together one match if he had to. He would be safe. His neck wouldn't be in any danger, provided he didn't take any pile drivers, and he worked careful. He could have a match, a passable match. And why would the same not be true for Edge? I personally never thought we would see Edge back again. He seemed to be embracing retirement, has a beautiful home in a beautiful city, Asheville, North Carolina, which is just gorgeous. A couple of kids now, or at least one kid with Beth Phoenix. They seem to be happy, and he seemed to really be settling into retirement life. But then when we saw him on SummerSlam and he speared Elias, wow, we just saw Edge spear someone for the first time in 9 years. And it got everybody talking, and now Edge is fueling those rumors of a possible comeback or one match. So here's what I'd like to say about that. Yes, absolutely, yes. I would love to see Edge come back and do a match. Just for nostalgia, just like Trish Stratus did at SummerSlam. Maybe he wins, maybe he loses, who knows. But just to see Edge back in the ring one more time, to maybe have a farewell match or a small little program, maybe 2 or 3 matches, one more time, and that's it. Yes, great. I would love to see that. Sign me up. I want to see it right now. Here's what I don't want to see. Saudi Arabia. That show is coming up in a couple of months. Last year, they brought Shawn Michaels back out of retirement. I love Edge. I want to see him back in the ring, but damn it, not in Saudi Arabia. Don't come back and take this blood money, dude. But the more and more I think about it, with the timing of this and everything, they could set up and they could set in motion some sort of a storyline or program or idea or match, and Edge has time to train and get himself in ring shape, he actually could have a match in Saudi Arabia. So if that's the case, that sucks because I'm not going to watch that show. I didn't watch the last one. I have no interest in these shows at all. They give me a very, very dirty feeling. And I think a lot of us can agree on that, regardless of where you stand, like politically and shit. You know, all of us agree that the WWE's dealings with Saudi Arabia is fucked up. And if Edge just comes back for that, great, cash grab for him. He's got a family. I understand you got to support that. It's really hard to turn away that kind of money. If WWE offered me $2 million to go have a match in Saudi Arabia, I'd be like packing my bags right now. Okay, so sitting back as a fan, you know, we can judge because it's not us and we're not in their shoes. So if Edge does it, I'm going to be really happy that he gets a cash injection into his bank account. Great for him, great for his family. But for me, I'm bummed out as a wrestling fan because I'm not going to be that interested in his return. I'm not going to be that interested in his return match. So as long as Edge has one match outside of Saudi Arabia, I'm happy. Maybe he comes back for a couple of matches and it starts in Saudi Arabia. That's where his kickoff match is. And then he has the return and the blow off here in the States or something. But if it's just a one-time deal like Shawn Michaels, because when Shawn Michaels came back last year, I was like, well, now he broke the seal. Now he's back in the ring. It doesn't matter now if he comes back or not. He can have another match because he's already flushed the retirement down the toilet. Might as well come back and work with AJ. And he hasn't. He never did. Shawn never got back in the ring. Probably realized that he just looks ridiculous with a bald head. Doesn't look right. But still, he should have came back, I think, and had one more match. Maybe one more WrestleMania match or a SummerSlam match. I would have much rather have seen Shawn in the ring with Ziggler at SummerSlam than Goldberg. So Shawn never did this. So if Edge comes back and has one match and one match only at Saudi Arabia, I'm going to be an extremely disappointed wrestling fan. But whatever Edge decides to do, I'm a huge Edge fan. He's awesome. Wish him the best. But as a wrestling fan, if I'm going to see Edge in the ring again, I want to see him in the ring at a regular pay-per-view. I don't want to see him in the ring with John Cena or something. You know, something just a throwback to before. Hell, maybe even Edge or Christian, can work a match. The two of them can reunite as a tag team to win the tag team titles or something. I don't know. But if he comes back and he only comes back in Saudi Arabia, that's going to disappoint me. I do see a couple of super chats coming in here. I will answer those here in 1 second, but I also want to talk about WrestleMania 37. I guess what year will that be? 2021, right? Rumors that it is going to be heading back out here to the West Coast, which I have mentioned several times, with LA and Las Vegas both building new stadiums. You know they're going to come here as soon as the opportunity presents itself, and it now looks like those are the two front-running cities to host WrestleMania 37. So if it's here in LA, right up the road, I'm down here in San Diego, I will definitely be there. And if it's in Vegas, I will be there too, because Vegas is an hour plane ride. It's a 5-hour drive. Would love to make the trip. There's an outside chance I might even be in Tampa for this year's WrestleMania, but I doubt it. I've got a couple of appearances in the next couple of months. I'm going to be at the October 4th SmackDown show, the first ever show on Fox at the Staples Center. So shoot me a DM on Twitter if you're attending the show and you want to meet up. And I will also be on the Jericho Cruise in January. So pulling off Tampa for WrestleMania might be tough, but if I missed it, at least I know that WrestleMania should be in my neck of the woods, sort of, in 2021 for WrestleMania 37. So I'm excited about that personally. And if I had my pick, I hope it's right here up in LA, because that is very, very close to me. I also want to mention briefly the XFL revealed 8 team names the other day. I have this down in my notes just because I thought it was interesting that they finally revealed some team names, because this league is launching next year. I think right after football season, right after the NFL season, which is about to kick off here, the XFL is going to launch. So they have only got a few months to really start putting this together. And I'm hoping that once it launches, maybe it distracts Jim Cornette a little bit more. Jim Cornette. I have Jim Cornette right here on my notes. It distracts Vince McMahon, a little bit more, and maybe some of his input is not so heavily focused on WWE, because we have heard rumors about him becoming more involved in NXT, which is to be expected. I know a lot of fans are freaking out about that, but that's something I wouldn't freak too much out about. Triple H is still in charge of that. With them going to the USA Network, it's a TV deal. So Vince McMahon probably just wants to eyeball shit a little bit more closely. I'm hoping that's all that is, and it's not Vince, fully taking over. I know a lot of the fans are cynics, and they're assuming that this means Vince is going to be making all the decisions at NXT. I really don't think it's like that. I think this is more of Vince just saying, well, now that we're on the USA Network 2 hours a week, I need to be a little bit more involved in what the fuck is going on down here. I think that's really, or a little bit more aware, I should say. So I'm hoping that's all that really is. So I'm not panicking about Vince McMahon becoming more involved in NXT. I don't think Vince becoming more involved necessarily ruins it. I think Vince McMahon taking over ruins it. So until we see that headline, I'm not panicking. But as far as the XFL goes, let me read you off these team names here. They have 8 teams announced. I don't know if that's going to be it, because I think that's all they had in the first rendition of XFL 20 years ago. I think it was only 8 teams. These names and these cities are the Dallas Renegades, the Houston Roughnecks, the LA Wildcats, the New York Guardians, St. Louis Battlehawks, Seattle Dragons, Tampa Bay Vipers, and the DC Defenders. I don't know if I'm a fan of any of those names, and I'm not really a fan of any of those cities, so I don't give a shit who wins. I guess I'll have to root for the Wildcats, the LA Wildcats, because they are closest to home. But yeah, anyway, team names are now revealed. We had a couple of coaches, I think, are signed and announced and everything, but I have not been paying much attention to what's been going on internally with the XFL and how far they have gotten in terms of securing players and teams and staff and all that stuff. So we got some team names now, and we're, I guess, 6 months away from this football league starting. That is insane. I also want to read you this statement the WWE issued, I think yesterday or maybe the day before, about their podcasting venture. This is kind of interesting. WWE issued the following. WWE partners with Endeavor Audio to develop a podcast network. Endeavor Audio, Endeavor's audio-first entertainment studio, and WWE, a global media and entertainment company, today announced plans to launch a new WWE podcast network with several superstar-focused series. The move into the audio space marks a first for WWE and is Endeavor's latest foray into exploring new podcast formats. So WWE clearly recognizes that everybody and their mother has a podcast. Now, luckily, technically, I've done like 500 episodes, but really here, I'm a new podcast. The Winged Eagle is only 2 episodes old, so I'm brand new. So I guess I will wait for my phone call from WWE to bring me into their podcast network. No, I'm just kidding. But this is something that I'm not surprised. Sorry if I'm bumping the desk. This is something that I'm not surprised about at all, because wrestling podcasts are taking over the world. Everybody has one. Even WWE tried to get a taste of that by bringing Bruce and Conrad's show onto the WWE Network last year for a few episodes. I might have even mentioned something similar to this in a live stream or an episode here or there, where I wouldn't be surprised at all if WWE does venture down this road and put something on the network, or maybe do a podcast of their own. Now they're creating a whole network of podcasts to where they might have current WWE superstars hosting these shows, because a lot of former talents have podcasts. You know, a lot of wrestlers have them, and a lot of those podcasts are successful. And WWE had the Stone Cold podcast on their network. I think they had Jericho's, right, a couple of times, and Bruce and Conrad. So they've had some interest in this, and to me, it looks like another way just for them to corner the market on something. I feel like they've cornered the market on independent wrestling with everything that they've been doing with NXT UK and, working agreements with, promotions like Evolve and stuff. I think they're trying to go out there and grab every piece of talent they can so the indies can't have them. And now they're going to do that shit to podcasts too. I assure you, boys and girls, I will not sign with WWE unless they give me a really good contract. I want a Brock Lesnar contract. I want to be able to work what I want, say what I want, and they can pay me $5 million. Then I'll think about signing with their shitty podcast network. But until they offer me that, don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay right here. Before we jump into the Raw and SmackDown kind of brief rundowns and recaps, I am going to just go back here to the chat. I don't think I had too many super chats come in, just 1 or 2. I think I only see 1. So if I'm missing another one, I apologize. And this one is from Chris Ludecki. Thank you for the $5, brother. I appreciate it. Do you think Edge's neck would have stayed healthier if he didn't use the spear as a finisher? No, well, maybe. I don't know where his neck problems originated. I don't know if it was from years and years of hitting the spear. Where Hogan, I think a lot of his hip and back issues was from years and years of dropping the leg. Edge, a spear, you're not going right in with your head every time. I mean, you're trying to do it with your shoulder, and Edge did it a lot with his arm. If you go back and watch his spears, I think Goldberg used his head a lot more than Edge did. I don't remember what the specific injury was or how, or what led to it. I'm sure the spear didn't help, but Edge did not have the type of spear, I don't believe, that was delivered in a way that would really jack his neck up. He looked to, for the most part, do more of a tackle than a spear. But I don't know. That all depends on what Edge thinks and his doctors or whatever. But based on what I saw in the ring, to me, his neck injury was probably just taking bumps. That's what I would guess. But I got to get into Raw and SmackDown here because we got to wrap this podcast up here in the next 30 minutes. Raw was a pretty good show on Monday. I was up here live streaming. We saw a lot of crazy stuff. We saw new champions crowned. We still saw a lot of the same garbage that we see on Raw, a lot of the same frustrating type of shit. But overall, I thought it was an exciting show. And the crowd seemed to like it okay. SmackDown, maybe not so much. But in terms of Raw, even though I thought it was a decent show, not a ton of stuff went down aside from the title changes and a couple of other things. But Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins are now your new Raw Tag Team Champions, which the OC, Gallows and Anderson, just won those belts recently. They're now reunited with AJ Styles. They're a heel faction. They're gaining some momentum. AJ is also the U.S. champion. They've got all the gold right now. And I wanted to see that momentum carry over. I wanted to see that momentum continue. They did the match a couple of weeks ago with Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. And that led to Braun Strowman coming out and helping Seth Rollins. And the two of them kind of had a little thing with the belt where Strowman picked it up, kind of making it known that he wants a shot at the title, but he's also there to, help Seth out. And they're teasing that. So this past week on Raw, they gave Braun Strowman a U.S. title shot. Braun Strowman got 2 title shots in one night. He got a U.S. title shot against AJ Styles. Gallows and Anderson interfered, got AJ DQ'd. Seth Rollins came out to make the save, and that set up the main event. Seth Rollins and Strowman teaming up to take on Gallows and Anderson for the tag team titles. The match was good. I did enjoy the finish in the main event, the match, I should say, and I enjoyed the finish with Strowman. I think he's about to powerbomb Anderson, and AJ's trying to run in to interfere, and as he dives under the bottom rope to try to break up the 3 count, Seth Rollins nails him with a curb stomp. I thought that was great. I think Strowman got the pin, and we got brand new tag team champions, and the only thing that I don't like about this is that we see this so often. You guys know that I have complained about this very thing happening for years on my channel, is that every single time, this goes back 20 plus years, every single time you put 2 baby faces together in a match at an upcoming pay-per-view, you always have to team them up in a tag team match. And sometimes those 2 win the titles. How many times have we seen reluctant tag team champions? It has been done to death. And it didn't need to be done here. I'm happy for Strowman. I don't even think he's tasted gold yet. But aside from that green Royal Rumble belt or whatever, has he been tag champs yet? He may have. I don't know. I think it's Strowman's first title. So I'm happy for him for that, but we know that this is just being used to further this storyline between Seth and Strowman. They're probably going to wrestle at Clash of Champions for the title, and so we're going to have 2 baby faces challenging for a title, and they both happen to be tag team champions. I think Shawn Michaels and John Cena had that issue going into WrestleMania 23 in the main event. Weren't they tag team champions going into that match? It's just something that I don't like seeing, especially when you're trying to revive the tag team of Gallows and Anderson, who have been in the company for 3 years and done jack shit since they've been there. You're finally now trying to treat them like, oh, let's actually do something with these guys. And they've re-signed and everything, and it's nice to see the club get rolling. Maybe they can bounce back from the shitty booking in the past 3 years, and when Finn Balor comes back, maybe they can add him to the group. I think the club has potential. The one thing I don't want to see them do right now is derail them for no reason. Because you didn't need to put the belts on Seth and Strowman. You could have just done another DQ or something. So I don't even know why you needed to put the belts on them, because you know what's going to happen. They're going to defend them, probably against the club. I think Gallows and Anderson will probably win the belts back from them, because you know what's going to happen. What happens in every single situation like this? Every single one. They have a match. There's a miscommunication. Seth Rollins is going to accidentally super kick Braun Strowman, or Strowman is going to accidentally run over Seth Rollins when he's running around the ring. How much you want to bet that happens? Strowman's going to be running around the ring like a madman, tackling people. Seth's going to be in his way, and he's going to get nailed by accident. Or a miscommunication will cost the 2 of them the titles. They're going to be pushing, shoving, brawling, whatever, just to add a little bit of heat to their match, and then you have the match. So I don't know how long they remain tag team champions, if they drop the belts before Clash of Champions, or if they actually hold them beyond Clash and drop them later. To me, it feels like with a storyline like this, they're going to drop them before, maybe even as early as this week on Raw. At some point, you have to have the spot where they do pushing and shoving. At some point, Seth and Strowman need to get mad at each other, because right now it's too respectful. They're in the locker room talking. Seth even tells Strowman they're sitting right next to each other. And Seth is like, Strowman, I appreciate what you did for me last week, and don't worry, I will give you a shot at the belt. So they're too happy right now. Something's got to happen. Something's got to break up the mood, and they got to get a little bit pissed at each other, and we'll see if Seth Rollins can slay another beast at Clash of Champions. But it's definitely looking like it's going to be Seth and Strowman right now for the belt, and I don't know how I feel about that, because I want Strowman to be Universal Champion. He is so long overdue for that. But Seth is right off of beating Brock Lesnar twice. If we're going to see a title change at Clash of the Champions, I actually think it's going to be the WWE title. So I don't know if you put the belt on Strowman at Clash. I think Seth survives. So what does that mean? Does he beat Strowman? What are they going to do there? What do you guys think they're going to do? I'm kind of curious. But yeah, you know that something like that's going to go down in the next couple of weeks on TV. And yeah, Rey Mysterio, did you guys catch that on Monday Night Raw? He got beat, I think, the week before, 2 straight falls to Andrade on Monday Night Raw. He's got a interview backstage. I can't remember who was interviewing him, Kayla Braxton or somebody like that. And he gives a really emotional promo. Actually, a really good promo by Rey. Very emotional. He was tearing up a little bit, and he was basically saying that he's going to retire. You know, there comes a time where every athlete needs to know when it's time to hang him up and all of this. And he's basically about to retire in a backstage interview instead of in a match or in the middle of the ring or the Hall of Fame or somewhere like that. And he's about to actually take the mask off. He starts unzipping it, and as he's about to pull it off, he's interrupted by his son, Dominic, who counters Rey Mysterio's great promo with one of the worst promos I've ever seen. I mean, if you can even call it a promo. Worst acting I've ever seen. And he stops Rey, and he says, Dad, you know, when you trained me, you promised me that you would be my tag team partner. I do not want you to retire until you do this for me. And basically delivers those lines in a really cringy, kind of terrible acting way. This is the #1 wrestling company in the world with the #1 wrestling show in the world, and you have the worst acting. Oh my God. I mean, I understand Dominic was kind of put in the situation. He's Rey's real life son. There's some real life here and stuff, but damn, you know, it was not good. But anyway, Rey agrees, and I guess they're going to be setting up some sort of a tag team match here with Rey and his son versus somebody. I don't know if that's going to be Andrade and a partner or whatever. I don't know what they're going to do there, but to me, this can go one of two ways. This can either be a nice family moment. Maybe this is something that Rey Mysterio really wants to do with his son. Maybe like, you know, kind of like Goldberg after WrestleMania. He came out to the ring and he just wanted to cut a promo and he wanted to thank his family and he wanted to have this nice family moment with no weirdness, no swerves, no nothing. He just wanted to have that moment with them. Maybe that's what all this is about. Maybe that's all it is. It's going to be a feel-good thing, like when Dustin teamed up with Dusty Rhodes back in WCW in like 93. Nice father-son team. We've seen lots of father-son pairings, lots of them over the years. And I remember Bret and Stu Hart have been tag team partners before. Larry Hennig and Kurt Hennig have been partners before. Dusty and Dustin. Mike Graham and Eddie Graham. There have been lots of Greg Gagne and Vern Gagne. So tons of father-son teams throughout the years. This will be no different. So I'm just trying to decide if it's either going to be #1, a nice family moment, or #2, a swerve, where Dominic turns on Rey, because Dominic's a big boy. And a couple of months ago, when Rey was involved in that feud with Samoa Joe, who does Dominic look more like? He looks a lot more like Samoa Joe to me than Rey. And I thought it would have been fun during the Rey and Joe feud if Dominic turned on Rey and sided with Joe, because Joe was being pretty evil. They were even teasing that Joe was going to get his hands on Dominic and maybe beat him up or something. And I was the one that pitched the idea of, wouldn't it be cool if it was a swerve and instead of Joe beating up Dominic, Dominic turns on his dad? And then in his first professional match, he's out there dressed like Samoa Joe with the shorts and the towel. He looks just like him. And he's almost as big. Dominic's a big boy. So I don't know where this is going. I'd like to hear your opinions on this. Do you think we are going to get the family moment, or are we going to get a swerve? And if we get a swerve, then what do? Rey versus Dominic? I don't know. Are they going to put this fucker up on a pole and have a ladder match for him again? Like at SummerSlam 2005? So the Dominic stuff, I don't know where it's going. I don't know if this is WWE's way of giving Rey the send-off that he really wants. I don't know if Rey really does plan to retire. He's a 30-year veteran. He's in his 40s now. He's still wrestling at a high level. He can still compete. Will he retire if he can still compete? And who knows? Maybe when his WWE contract is up, he works again in Mexico or somewhere else. So I really don't know where it's going. Really don't know what WWE has planned, but it does look like some point in the future, maybe even as early as Clash of Champions, because we still are close to a month away from that pay-per-view, 3 weeks or whatever. They can put together a tag match for Rey and Dominic there. I don't know. What do y'all think? What else do I have written down for Monday Night Raw? Let's talk about The Fiend. Bray Wyatt. We had Jerry Lawler. Incidentally, Corey Graves is on vacation. I believe him and Carmella are off doing something somewhere. So he was off Monday Night Raw. He was off SmackDown as well. On SmackDown, he was replaced by David Otunga. And on Raw, he was originally replaced by Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler was also supposed to have a King's Court segment with Sasha Banks. And when Lawler was in the ring about to introduce Sasha, the lights go out. And Lawler has the mic in his hand. It was pretty funny. He's like, oh shit, I've seen this before. I'm getting the hell out of here. And he jumps out of the ring, tries to get out of the ring, and walks up the ramp. By this point, all the lights are down or off in the arena. And he's up on the stage, and he's kind of turning around to look back towards the ring. And then just the perfect camera angle. The Fiend comes right up from behind him, kind of raises up behind his shoulder. And I was reacting to it on Raw. I'm like, oh shit, there he is. And then bam, nails him with the mandible claw, puts Lawler down, and the Fiend ends another legend. So that's Foley, Angle, and Lawler now. He's all gotten with the mandible claw, and he defeated Finn Balor, at SummerSlam. So I don't know who his next opponent is going to be. I don't know if Finn Balor is going to come back and have one more match with him. There has been rumors of Finn Balor taking time off. He might be doing that right now. So when Balor comes back, I'd like to see him go heel, join the OC. But if he does come back and give the Fiend one more match, maybe he will. I'm not sure. But I'm still loving the Fiend. I still love this new Bray Wyatt character. It's very good. And it's going to be interesting to see where it goes and who he winds up feuding with and having a match with next. I'm glad that we're not seeing too much of the Fiend. I think right after SummerSlam, the Raw after SummerSlam, he didn't appear on the show. So the fact that he's not on TV every week, and when he is, it's quick. And his one match so far has been quick. I think that's good. Slow start. Don't overexpose him right away. And I'm really curious when he will finally lose a match, who he runs into that finally beats him and when that is. I hope it's way down the line from now. I actually think the Fiend, they should put the belt on him as a really scary heel. I think the Fiend should be the one to eventually defeat Seth Rollins whenever that happens. But that's a ways off, at least right now. But whenever the Fiend does lose, I almost hope that maybe he is the Mr. Rogers character or the Mr. Muscle Man gimmick or whatever that is. If he's one of those and he loses in a match, then that's fine. But I want to see this Fiend character and this creepy-ass mask. I want to see this guy remain undefeated for as long as possible. But pretty good stuff on Raw with the Fiend and Jerry Lawler. And after Lawler got attacked, he was actually replaced on commentary then by Vic Joseph, which I thought was awesome. Give this kid a chance. He sounded good. I liked his voice, breath of fresh air, something new to listen to on Monday Night Raw. I liked that WWE was kind of experimenting and not just having Michael Cole go over to SmackDown, putting Otunga there instead, bringing up Vic Joseph to call Raw in place of Graves. That's great. Nice to see these guys getting chances and WWE experimenting a little bit with their commentary team. Sasha Banks, who incidentally was supposed to have that interview on the King's Court, that didn't happen because Lawler got beat up by the Fiend. She did a backstage interview or a sit-down interview with Michael Cole instead. So she was backstage, Cole was at the announce desk, and she's healing on the crowd in the audience and talking about her blue hair and how crazy it is that she has blue hair. And Cole, to his credit, was pretty funny. She's like, Sasha, or he's like, Sasha, nobody cares about your blue hair. We want to know why you did what you did. And Sasha just goes on to continue to brag, shits on Natalya a little bit, shits on Becky Lynch. And then later on, Sasha Banks would actually attack Natalya backstage. Natalya has got her arm in a sling. She's standing next to all those crates that they put all the equipment in. And Sasha attacks her. And as Natalya is sitting on the floor selling the attack, Sasha gets down and grabs her by the hair. And she says, "Go to hell, Natty, and say hi to your dad for me." Oh, my God. And then takes her head and slams it right up against one of those crates. That was awesome. Now, I know it's weird whenever, deceased wrestlers are brought up. With Neidhart, a guy like Neidhart, this is not something that really offends me, and I didn't see too many fans getting upset about this. Sometimes when they do shit like this, it's a little weird. CM Punk spilling Paul Bear's ashes 2 weeks after he died was weird. Randy Orton saying Eddie Guerrero was in hell and crashing the lowrider just a couple of weeks after he died was weird. And there have been some times like this where I thought it was tasteless and in poor taste. This was okay. It got Sasha over as such a bitch. And I've got one kind of crazy thought here and swerve idea, because it does look like we also had a vignette or a sit-down promo and interview with Becky Lynch as well, where she's barking back at Sasha Banks for Sasha's attack on her last week. And it does look like they're building to a Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch match for the title at Clash of Champions, because it doesn't look like Sasha's going to be working with Natalya, even though she's kind of feuding with her too. Natalya's selling the elbow, so it's probably going to be Sasha and Becky for the title. But since Sasha kind of has two issues right now, one with Natalya, one with Becky, and Natalya is fresh off of her feud with Becky, or her match with Becky at SummerSlam that did get a little bit nasty there, and Becky was not having any of this happy-go-lucky Natalya who just wants to go out there and have a good, nice contest with someone she respects. Becky Lynch kind of shit on her. So what if we get swerved here? What if Natalya goes heel, and maybe the whole thing that her and Sasha are doing is a setup, and Natalya shows up at Clash of Champions seemingly to help out Becky because of how horrible Sasha has been to her, and then she turns heel and helps Sasha win the belt. Does Sasha need another friend? Does she need to be paired with Natalya? Do we even need to see that? I say no, and I guess if Natalya turns heel, she doesn't necessarily need to be paired with Sasha, but you would think they would have some sort of an alliance. So I think that could be a possibility. Otherwise, what are they doing here? They're just trying to get more sympathy for Natty, make Natalya look even more pathetic than she already does. I'm not a really big Natalya fan, and I'm really not a fan of her being a babyface. I think she sucks at cutting these sappy promos. And I like Natty as a worker and everything, and I think maybe she's better off being a heel. So just an idea that I had. I thought of this at like 2 a.m, so maybe it's a bad idea, and it just sounded good at 2 a.m. But maybe Natalya winds up swerving us and actually turns heel and aligns herself with Sasha and helps her beat Becky for the belt. There was I said this before, there was a time where Sasha was a lot more loved and respected and at a better position on the roster than Becky. Sasha used to be more over than Becky. Some people like Sasha still more than Becky. So if anybody's going to take the belt off of Becky, maybe Sasha's the person. She's certainly the hottest woman in the company right now. She is. And we're going to have Bayley having a match at Clash of Champions as well. So I don't know if maybe there's some interference there. I don't know what the hell's going to happen. Anything could happen maybe at Clash of Champions. But I really would have no issue at this point if Sasha took the belt off of Becky. I like Becky and everything. But Sasha's back. She's got a lot of buzz. I'm not one of those people that tries to question whether or not she deserves to be in the main event match or anything like that. What goes on behind the scenes internally is their business, and it's really not up to me to speculate on it. So now that she's back, I just kind of hope that she's put into good matches, good programs, good storylines, and we're excited to see what she does. And I don't want to really concern myself with anything else other than that. So if it turns out to be Sasha and Becky, and Sasha takes the belt from her, great. We know we'll get a return match. We'll know the feud is not over, and it could turn out to lead to some more matches. When is Hell in the Cell? Do you think we'll get another Sasha Banks Hell in the Cell match? Maybe Sasha and Becky have a match in the Cell in October, or whenever the hell that pay-per-view is. Might not even be in October anymore. I don't know. But that could lead to that. We also had some King of the Ring matches on SmackDown. First round is now underway. I'm sorry, a couple of King of the Ring matches on Raw and SmackDown, as the first round is now underway. We had Cedric Alexander beating Sami Zayn. Not liking the way Sami's being used right now. He lost completely clean and got pretty much destroyed by Cedric Alexander in that match. And we had Samoa Joe defeating Cesaro, which is not a huge surprise there. So Joe advances and Cedric advances. The one thing about the Joe and Cesaro match I want to mention was the opening. When that bell rang, Cesaro charged Samoa Joe and knocked him flat on his ass. Did you see that? One of the craziest bumps all week. I mean, it looked like a legitimate shot to me, and Joe went down hard, but he got the last laugh, beat Cesaro on Raw, and advanced in the King of the Ring. SmackDown would have a couple of King of the Ring matches as well. One of them was Elias versus Kevin Owens. Now, again, we've got Kevin Owens going backstage to talk to Shane McMahon and pleading with him to drop this fine. And I cannot believe how much he is looking like a chump doing this. Shane McMahon fined him $100,000 the week before on SmackDown. Owens basically begged Shane McMahon to reconsider, and now he's back on SmackDown again, entering Shane McMahon's office saying, it's a lot of money for my family, and I'm asking you again to reconsider. And Shane even says he'll take it under advisement. We know Shane is full of shit. So for all the people that are comparing the Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon storyline to Stone Cold and Vince, or Stone Cold and any of the McMahons, you have to look beyond the stunner. Because aside from Owens using the stunner, nothing about this feud is the same as Stone Cold versus the McMahons years ago. Because let me tell you something. The Stone Cold Steve Austin character back in 1998 or 1999 would not have gone into Vince McMahon's office and begged him to not fine him. That would have been the last thing he did. Austin would have gone and got a dump truck and dumped a bunch of concrete in Vince McMahon's car, or fucking shoved a can opener up his ass or something like that. He would be doing the absolute exact opposite of what Owens is doing. So I really don't like Owens doing this. I mean, I like that Owens is selling the importance of a fine, because anytime there's a fine in wrestling, the fans don't take it seriously because it's a working fine. It's not a shoot fine. So these stupid authority figures can go on TV all they want and say, you're fined $50,000. It's not like the fans are going to go, ooh, he got fined fake money. So at least Kevin Owens is putting the importance of $100,000 over, because in real life, if you got fined $100,000, probably wouldn't make you really happy. So Owens, I guess, is being realistic, but I don't like the fact that he's pleading and groveling at Shane's feet. And then later on, he's got to go into the ring to face Elias. I was expecting Shane McMahon to come out and screw Kevin Owens at some point during the King of the Ring tournament. I was not expecting it to happen this quick. Shane McMahon comes out right in the middle of Elias and Kevin Owens' match, takes off his shirt to reveal a referee's shirt. Elias rolls up Owens and Shane fast counts him. So Elias is out of the King of the Ring just like that. I thought he might make it to the finals and get screwed there. And Elias moves on and Owens is out. So clearly they're setting up here for another Shane McMahon Kevin Owens match. I would like to think, I even had this idea for a swerve, kind of like the Natalya heel turn. What if Kevin Owens is setting Shane up here? What if Kevin Owens is just coming across as a weak, groveling fucking disgrace? Like he's doing, please, Shane McMahon, please don't fine me. What if it's all just a ruse? What if he's just luring Shane in to think that Shane has got, to make Shane think that he's got all of the leverage, he's got the upper hand, he's got Kevin Owens by the balls, but in reality, Kevin's got some weird scheme up his sleeve, and all of this groveling at Shane's feet has all been done by design to set him up and surprise him with something. Or does Kevin Owens eventually just snap, where he just annihilates Shane McMahon 1 week on TV, and that sets up a match? And I think there should be a stipulation in the next match. Maybe not a Hell in the Cell again, because they've already done that, but maybe since Owens had to put his career on the line at SummerSlam, maybe Shane does the same at Clash. Because we were speculating after SummerSlam that might be the end of Shane McMahon, and he might be off TV for a while. He's clearly still here, so maybe there's one more match that actually boots Shane from television, at least for a little while. Or maybe Shane sticks around indefinitely. But I think we can all agree that the heel authority figures are played out. And I'm sick of seeing them. And whatever they do here with Shane and Kevin Owens, you know that Shane is going to get what's coming to him. You know that's what it's leading to, because Kevin Owens is being screwed and screwed and screwed again. At some point, he's going to have to get the last laugh on Shane McMahon. And that will happen. It just depends on how it happens, how they go about it. If any of those scenarios or possibilities that I laid out happens, I guess it all depends. And I'm guessing we will get that match at Clash of Champions. We also had Andrade after Elias beat Kevin Owens to advance in the tournament. Andrade won a pretty good match over Apollo Crews. I did not like really either match on Monday Night Raw in the King of the Ring. I wasn't a huge fan of Cedric and Sammy or Cesaro and Joe, but I thoroughly enjoyed Apollo and Andrade. And Andrade beat Apollo to advance there. Andrade is on my short list of favorites to win this King of the Ring. He's been looking real strong. I love the character. I love the wrestler. He hasn't been doing a whole lot since he's come to the main roster, and a lot of us agreed, I think last week in the stream, that the King of the Ring throne and the title is almost better suited for a heel, because it's bragging rights and they can be a dick about it and everything. So I would like to see, really the top of my list right now, Andrade or McIntyre, I guess would be my two top picks. We also had the Buddy Murphy, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan storyline, furthering more on SmackDown. This thing was a mess. We had Buddy Murphy taking on Daniel Bryan in a match on SmackDown, in a very good match. Buddy Murphy had a breakout performance the week before in a losing effort to Roman Reigns. This week, he beats Daniel Bryan. Beats him in a really good match. Daniel Bryan put him over, much like he put over Ali. I like this match in a lot of ways even better than the one he had with Roman, even though Buddy's performance against Roman was great. I think Buddy Murphy is a breakout star, and I think he's kind of turning heel. Or I'm sorry, turning babyface, excuse me, before our very eyes here, right? Defeating Daniel Bryan like this, and then he got attacked after the match backstage by Bryan and Rowan. And they had, the whole time, I guess they had this culprit, because the week before, Daniel Bryan vowed to reveal Roman Reigns' attacker this week on SmackDown. They've got this guy basically held prisoner in a room with a cloak or a cover or a blanket over his head or a hood over his head or something. And so after Daniel Bryan is done losing to Buddy Murphy, then he's done kicking the shit out of Buddy Murphy. He then goes to the back and Roman Reigns comes in. It's Harper and Bryan, and they've got the man under the hood, and they take the hood off to reveal some big bald dude with a giant red beard who looks exactly like Rowan. So it's some lookalike. So when Buddy Murphy said he saw Rowan, really he saw this guy. And Daniel Bryan is cutting his great, awesome heel promos, saying that everybody owes him an apology, and you thought it was me, and you thought it was Roman, and you're falsely accusing people. This is the guy. And the show basically went off the air with Roman Reigns just staring like, what the fuck is this? And somebody had edited and put in, piped in Curb Your Enthusiasm's ending theme song when the camera panned to Roman Reigns, and he just kind of had that look on his face like, what the hell am I looking at here? So we don't even know what this is about. This is another guy now. I don't know if he looks almost too old to be a wrestler, so I don't know if he's just some extra that they found, some lookalike like Eric Rowan. But the more and more this goes on, I feel like Daniel Bryan is going to be the one behind the attacks. He has to be at this point. And I said that last week. I think that Daniel Bryan makes the most sense, and I think he would be the most entertaining guy to be behind everything. And that looks to be what's happening here. Looks like Daniel Bryan is blowing smoke up all of our asses. You know, he's trying to throw Roman Reigns off by being adamant that he had nothing to do with it, when in reality he's behind it the whole time. And I would love to see like another attack carried out on Roman Reigns maybe next week. And I had an idea, since somebody tried to crush Roman Reigns, then somebody tried to crash into Roman Reigns, what if next week somebody tries to bludgeon Roman Reigns? There's another bludgeon brother floating around out there, and I think from the minute Roman Reigns was first attacked, some of us had speculated about the possibility of Luke Harper. We know he's doing nothing. I mentioned his Twitter account in the last Winged Eagle podcast last week. Go take a look at his Twitter account and see the shit that he says every day, the same thing every day. So he could literally burst onto the scene at any time. It would make a lot of sense for him to reunite with Rowan and then have Daniel Bryan together with them as the three-man faction, and the whole time it was Luke Harper was the one attacking Roman Reigns, and Daniel Bryan is the mastermind behind it. I, at this point, would like to see it go in that direction, and I would like to see this big dude, whoever he is with the red beard, just be a red herring and get the fuck out of here. So I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks that's what we get, because we still have a couple of weeks until the Clash, and there's still time to set up either Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns, or whoever attacked Roman Reigns versus Roman Reigns, and maybe he has to get through Daniel Bryan's henchmen first before getting to Daniel Bryan, kind of thing. So that is where I feel like they're going, and I would love to see Luke Harper come back into the fold here and play a part in the storyline for sure. I also want to mention Charlotte. She was a guest on Moment of Bliss, fresh off of her big win and a good match against Trish Stratus at SummerSlam, and she challenges Bayley for the women's title at Clash of Champions, which I believe is in North Carolina, and that's an event that her father has a lot of history with, or at least that name, Clash of Champions. So I think it's a fitting place for Charlotte to get the title, even though the fans are sick of her and don't want to see her win the title and all of that. I basically feel like the opposite. I don't have time to get into that debate right now because I got to leave soon, but I really don't have any problem with Charlotte being champion or anything like that. And now she's officially back. She wants a shot at the title. She challenges Bayley. Bayley comes out and accepts the challenge, and in a really cool little spot at the end, which is cool to see Bayley doing this, because Bayley is so difficult to like and get behind as a babyface. She does nothing for me at all. But I like Bayley as a worker and everything, just as a babyface character. I don't like her song. I don't like those big inflatable things. I don't really like a whole lot about Bayley. But I loved when she said that she would accept the challenge, and then as she's walking away, very Sasha Banks-like, she turns around and she goes, oh, one more thing, and then bam, nails Charlotte, who flies off the chair and hits the table and then hits the floor, and she's got that look on her face like, holy shit. That took me off guard. And it was great. It was a great little spot. I think Charlotte and Samoa Joe took the two funniest bumps of the week, with Joe being mowed down by Cesaro like that, and then Charlotte being pushed off the chair by Bayley. I thought it was great. So we now have that match set up. So we've got Sasha and Becky and Charlotte and Bayley. Both are going to be title matches most likely. And Clash is looking interesting. I got to say, Clash so far, even though nothing is really official, it's shaping up to be a decent looking card, I feel. We're also probably going to get a world title, WWE title match on that show. Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston. Randy Orton, I think, opened the show. He was cutting a promo. He got jumped by Kofi from behind because Kofi was attacked by Orton on Raw, by the way, which I don't think I mentioned. And he came out and got some revenge here. Hit Randy Orton with a Trouble from Paradise. The Revival hit the ring. Kofi runs them off with a chair. And you now have Randy Orton kind of pairing up with the Revival. And I think this is great for the Revival, because they've tried to be revived several times and they've failed. They had a short alliance with Shane McMahon for a couple of weeks there where we were all saying, oh, good, this might help elevate their status, if they're paired up with a guy like Shane McMahon. And now Orton has taken them under their wing, and provided this is not another one of these short-lived alliances and they actually make these guys a three-man unit, you could have some really fun 3-day units out there right now. You got the OC, you've got the New Day, you could have Daniel Bryan's group. There's a lot of fun ones out there. And now you got Randy Orton and the Revival. There's a lot of little factions out there. I think that's great. So this could, again, help the Revival. And maybe if Randy Orton winds up defeating Kofi Kingston for the title, maybe you can see the Revival grab the tag belts, and then the three of them have all the belts. And this could be really interesting come Survivor Series time when you got all these three-man groups. Who knows? But I think Kofi's days as champion may finally come to an end at the Clash of Champions, and I'm sure we are going to get that match officially announced in the next couple of weeks, or next couple of TVs, probably this week on SmackDown is when that will be made official. Next week, we also have Shelton Benjamin taking on Chad Gable in the King of the Ring. Little backstage segment between the two of them on SmackDown. Something is up there. I can't tell who they're going to push. It's either going to be Chad Gable or Shelton Benjamin. One of them seems like they're in line for some sort of a push. I just can't tell yet. And as far as that goes on SmackDown, what else did I need to mention? Excuse me. Oh, yeah. We had Sami Zayn as a guest on Miz TV, and he then brought out Shinsuke Nakamura, and the two of them attacked The Miz. And it looks like right now, rumors are The Miz is going to be taking on Nakamura for the Intercontinental title at the Clash of Champions. How Sami Zayn is involved in this, I don't know. I don't know why Nakamura and The Miz couldn't have started a program on their own without Sami. So the fact that Sami is involved here and the two of them were double teaming and beating the shit out of The Miz on SmackDown makes me think that maybe The Miz is going to have some backup of some kind. And one name kind of just jumped out at me. I tweeted about it. What about John Morrison? Like, what's he doing right now? He's kind of a free agent, right? He's been floating around for the past couple of years. What would really be stopping him from coming back into the WWE? A lot of people might not want to see him there. Oh, he'd get lost in the shuffle. He wouldn't be a big star in the WWE. There's already too much talent there. But if they brought him in to help out The Miz and reunited Miz and Morrison, you never know. That could be pretty fun, I think. So I'm kind of hoping that Morrison shows back up and maybe helps out The Miz. That might be fun. But in the meantime, looks like Miz is going to get another shot at the Intercontinental title. And if you are an Intercontinental title or an Intercontinental champion, I have to ask you, what would make you want to start a program with The Miz? This guy's like a 9-time Intercontinental champion. If I was the IC champion, the last person in the world I'd be starting feuds with is The Miz, because chances are he's going to take your belt. So that pretty much wraps it up for the Raw and SmackDown recaps. And I'm sorry, I really got to cut this short. I got to get out of here. I'm already late. I thought an hour and a half would be enough time. I should have given myself 2 hours. But just before I go, I do want to run down the Clash of Champions card and what it looks like it's going to be. We only have 2 official matches announced, Bayley versus Charlotte and the finals of the King of the Ring. Aside from that, it looks like we're going to get Randy Orton versus, It looks like we're going to get Randy Orton versus Kofi Kingston for sure. We're going to get Seth Rollins versus Braun Strowman. We're going to get Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch. We're probably going to get Kevin Owens against Shane McMahon. And we're also probably going to get Roman Reigns versus somebody, either his attacker or Daniel Bryan. So that right there is 6 matches, 7 matches already likely for the show. Probably a tag title match in there somewhere as well. Maybe the Revival gets a shot or something like that. And who knows, maybe Seth and Braun won't even be tag team champions anymore by the time we get to Clash of Champions. Maybe they do a double thing. Maybe there's 2 matches. Maybe Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman defend the tag team titles. Because that would work, right? Maybe Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins defend the tag team titles at the Clash, and then later on, they wrestle for the Universal title. That would be interesting to see how they work in the tags in and out. Maybe one guy wants to stay fresh and let the other one do all the work. Who knows? That could be a possibility, too, that they could work double duty just like they did on Monday Night Raw. But right now, the Clash on paper does not look horrible. As crazy as it sounds, I'm not even that freaked out about Charlotte and Bayley, and I think Sasha and Becky can be a lot of fun. I think Kofi's title run might come to an end. Owens and Shane could be interesting. We still don't know who Roman is going to face. He's going to face someone, likely his attacker, and we got the King of the Ring finals. So I don't think the card looks that bad. What do you guys think? But anyway, I am really sorry to have to cut this short. I have to leave right now. Thank you very much for tuning in again. This is episode 2 of The Winged Eagle, and I am liking the way they're going so far because I'm able to write down a lot more notes. We're able to talk about a lot more things when I don't have to go through this audio and edit it and get it up to YouTube. This is much easier. And like I said, they will continue to get better, and I will continue to improve on this podcast. I want to say goodbye to all of you in here and make sure there's nothing else I missed, no other super chats. Pretty decent audience. Before you guys go, actually, by the way, will you smash that thumbs up just as we're leaving here and try to get me up to a good amount of likes? I'd really appreciate that. I want to make sure there's no other donations I missed. I'm sorry for those of you that I did not say hi to in the chat. Thank you to all of you for hanging out. Today was fun. They are going to continue to be fun. And I will be back up here this Monday night, live streaming my reaction to Monday Night Raw. So thanks again for hanging out, and I will catch you real soon for another Winged Eagle podcast. Be cool. Peace.